Welcome to a very special episode of Hook Cook's Continental Breakfast, the improvised world-building podcast guaranteed to feed a hunger you didn't know you had. I'm Mitch. I'm a monster chef.
My name is Dishbot, and tonight I will play the role of Jack.
Hey folks, I'm Vinny. I'm the saucy spicer.
Join us here in the kitchen of creativity as we take a random prompt, add a few secret ingredients, and turn it alchemy-like into a country ready for you, that's right, you, to break down in your tummy. Now, our dear larder critter Connor's travel funding has just about run out, so I think he might have one more check-in before we get him back on the pod. Where are you now, Connor?
Hello, boys. Connor here, your larder critter, reporting for Hook Cooks. And let's be honest, after Sky Whale Warlocks, Flaming Pirate Death Traps, and whatever the hell was going on with those observatory kids, I was hoping for a quiet assignment. Instead, I'm at Psycorp Tower 66, the multi-layered, time-warped civilization in a snow globe experiment where cultures rise and fall faster than a souffle in a tornado. And best of all, I get to observe, this time, safely through glass. That's right, folks. Today, we're not part of the experiment. We're just looking at it.
Welcome to the Psycorp Tower 66 Premium Visitor Experience. I'm Marv, your certified temporal observation liaison and level 4 Psycorp brand ambassador. Before we proceed, please acknowledge our waiver of temporal liability. Just initial here, good, and here, very nice, and here, okay, acknowledging that any existential dread experienced during your tour is not the responsibility of Psycorp or its subsidiaries. Great! Now, let's dive into level 12, Home. A vibrant society currently undergoing targeted shamanic recalibration. Note the quaint architecture, the nostalgic rotary phones, and over here, you'll see one of Home's unique cultural developments, mandatory high-stakes shamanic arbitration. Isn't innovation wonderful?
That guy just lost a chess match and got dragged off by a huge wolverine.
Now let's discuss our star employee, Ronald Can of Coke.
You mean your captured scientist?
Psycorp does not endorse the term captured. Okay, Ronald is a self-motivated knowledge liaison currently excelling in his extended fieldwork assignment. Alright, he's optimized game rules by 32%, reduced unnecessary fatalities by 6%, and, most impressively, increased outside world awareness metrics by a whopping 112%. Now that's a Q3 record.
And I guess that's how you monetize the apocalypse. This has been Connor, your larder critter, signing off from Psycorp Tower 66, where the coffee's weak, but the KPIs are strong. Back to you, boys!
Psycorp 66 Visitor Center. It sounds like it was great.
Yeah.
Sounds like you loved it.
7-layer salad there.
Make sure you bring back some postcards.
My favorite thing that happened in that, and Vinny, this is where you'll edit in me, like you doing my voice of me explaining my favorite thing from Connor's pre-recorded segment.
Yeah.
That sounds, I think that'll really fly.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. That sounds like an easy, smooth thing to do.
Easy, simple to do.
Sound very natural and sort of harmonic. And that's really what we're aiming for in this podcast. That and having a great time. On that note, chefs, BFFs, let's get cooking. Giacomo Jack, what is the prompt today?
The prompt today is Gilded Bones.
Ooh.
Gilded bones.
Gilded.
You always gotta say it a different way.
I like that this one sounds like a name.
You can't be normal.
I can't be normal. No. Thanks, Dad.
It'd be like a Connie's name.
Mitch, you wanna give us your best before yesterdays, the worst bits.
All right.
That lie within that brain of yours.
Yeah, I mean, this is the trash that came to the forefront of my mind.
Those little crispy bits that are left over after frying.
I mean, that's the good stuff. That's the good stuff we save for later. Love that. But let's be real for a sec, guys. Let's send jokes out of the room because I want to know if you guys are keen on making some easy money.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Always
good.
easy money, definitely.
Well, Vinny, I've got 2 questions for you to sort of determine whether this once-in-a-lifetime investment opportunity is right for you. Question 1, did you know that out of all the natural minerals, gold holds value the best over a long period of time if you can store it securely enough?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I did not know that.
Well,
I wonder how this segues into the second thing that you have to
Question 2, you kids into Wolverine?
say. Yeah, boy. Yeah, gold plate me.
Now, what I'm saying is, what's safer than a bank, right?
Uh-huh.
Your own bones.
What if
let's put the gold there. It will never go out of value.
If I get into a terrible bone-related accident, is that effectively like me taking a hit on the stock market? Like,
Depends if you're in a country with socialized medicine or not.
Sounds like a really good way to guarantee that when someone robs me, I die.
I mean,
what
only
are you
if
gonna
they
do?
know,
Stab
right?
me?
Only if they know.
Yeah. Only if they know.
Why would they
imagine-
look at your bones?
Why would they look at my bones?
Man, getting
because
to the airport is
you're
gonna
on
be a pain
TV
in the
trying to convince people to get your Wolverine surgery to store their gold inside of them. Also, wouldn't it poison you? It poisons Wolverine.
He has different stuff.
Isn't this just a gold storage solution? It's not a gold obtaining solution.
In order for Mitch to obtain the gold for him to gold plate his bones, he has to sell his gold plating bones.
Right. I need to get you guys on the down line.
This is a pyramid scheme of gold
No, but
plating
see,
bones.
the way that the value increases is that you hold the gold, you don't sell it, and the market value goes up.
All right. Jackie, as the uninterested party, I'm curious to see what hooked your attention so much. So hit us with your best before yesterday.
It's good that we followed each other, I think. Mine's sort of short and sweet. Here we go. This is how you guys will know that I have finally won the Powerball.
Well, I can't really see any physical difference, but you feel like you're
Seems
glowing.
like there's something different about you.
Yeah, you seem
Yeah,
really
covered
sick.
in surgery
You
scars.
seem very unwell. You are covered in scars.
Constantly clutching at your ribs.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, and you weigh 200 kilos.
What is that about? You're in a wheelchair.
Can you even Wolverine?
Okay.
Okay,
The
I mean,
bone spurs, right?
I guess
Like, it's
kind of similar vein to you. My
Beautiful.
best before yesterday. When you're tired of people commenting on your golden teeth, rebrand.
There we go.
There we go.
Why
It's-
wouldn't you cover your bones?
You know,
in
when
gold?
someone is like, look at this goddamn yokel, you're like, gilded bones, baby. Gilded bones.
Someone's like, look at this guy with his gold tooth. You like peel it off. You're like, gotcha. I caught you in a stereotype.
You
That's
bigot.
a beautiful idea. I love that.
Yeah. Share that with the world. Vinny. I think that could make some money.
I think
A
Mitch needs
rebrand
that to
of
make
gold
some money.
teeth?
I got a home loan to pay.
Should we move on over to the meat and potatoes?
I think so.
Let's do
All
it.
right,
Feels
let's
like it's
do it.
that-
Let's
that
start
time.
diving into the details of this week's country. We've each come up with a pre-prepared segment covering one of 3 themes: people, place, and environment. We will now start cramming those pre-prepared segments desperately into our face holes before your very ears, before joining hands to deposit a country-sized pile of leavings in the toilet that occupies our shared consciousness.
Oh, no.
God, Jack, where the fuck do you come up with this shit?
I don't know, man. It's like rattling around in my brain 100% of the time since I was born. And now I just get to pour it out all over you guys.
Oh, so you were born with all of your ideas?
Yeah,
and
all
then
my
they-
ideas. I'm
Okay.
actually running out.
Oh, no.
I got like at least 18 months left, and then I'll just be, one of those,
Blank.
one
What
of
a
those people
terrifying
that,
metaphor for
start-
mortality.
You gotta
yeah,
start
I'll be like
rationing
one of
them
those
out, man.
people that likes Family Guy.
Oh, no.
Just be,
Don't worry, Jack.
Nothing in
We won't
there.
let it get that bad.
yeah, it put me in my misery, like old
Yeah.
Yeller. Vinny, why don't you kick us off?
Oh, I would love to, boys. All right, here's my meat and potatoes segment. I got people of this fine place. The people of the village lived long, peaceful lives. Much longer and much more peaceful than the neighboring groups, and far between were visitors. They do not like visitors. They lived off the land, somehow farming crops when the rest of the area was barren, trapping animals when there were barely any remaining, managing to keep themselves perpetuating, but never growing. For when they got too many, the darkness would gain purchase. Centuries and millennia pass by these villagers, who keep their lives simple and maintain the necessary balance to appease the bones. That caged pile of golden relics past, just as much a curse as a boon. Maintaining their lives indefinitely, but bringing the ever-eager and all-curious darkness to their door from any misstep. The glittering artifacts floated above the glowing coals of the village bonfire. Drip and droop globules of pure gold into the flames below, nourishing this place. The crops grow plentifully, and the rivers fill with fish. The bones provide what the villagers need to survive, and what the villagers need to protect the bones. The most ancient of folk, older even than the oldest records, spoke of other curses that have ravaged these lands in times past. Some wiped from hunger, some removed by their own destructive forces, even some wiped directly from memory and page. All had their burdens to bear. Deep within each villager is the understanding of what is truly at stake. Deep within each villager is the trauma of hiding their secret and silencing any who learn about it. And deep within each and every villager, nestled amongst the sinew, muscles, and veins pumping with blood, are their glimmering, glittering, golden bones.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the bones are like a protective spell, and when people die, they burn the bones, and it protects the land. Am I sort of caching that correctly? What's the missing pieces there then?
The bones give them what they need to survive when they burn them, when they put them over the fire.
And they're burning the people who die's bones.
Yep.
Like that's the sort of cycle of this community.
Yep. They keep watch over the bones of the people who've died in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But the bones also bring some kind of curse with them. You know, when their village gets out of whack, this curse grows and becomes more dangerous to them.
Okay.
Yeah, and they live forever.
Well, that's also fun.
That's good. So the people live forever. How do you then burn is it a sort of like elves in Lord of the Rings thing where they can die and?
So the villagers live forever, but they can they don't age, but they can die. Probably something to do with the darkness that would result in many of them dying, and then they harvest their bones. Okay, well,
nice.
there's my meat and potatoes presented for everybody. Mitty, would you please present for us your meat and potatoes?
I sure can and will. I was creating something from the environment of this strange little corner of the world we find ourselves in. So here we go. It began as a show of strength, piercing one's flesh with the tooth of a defeated beast, wearing the claw of a deadly predator within one's skin, as if to say, I bested you so soundly the only damage I've taken from your killing tools I chose. But it spread quickly. The bones of the desert's ancient creatures were carved, sharpened, sold, traded, paid in exchange for goods and services by hunters and poachers. Of chief popularity were the great sand snakes, many meters in length, deadly poisonous, but all ribs, mostly, each one worth a pretty penny with barely any shaping or shaving necessary. It was not uncommon to see leaders and wealthy folks sporting a chain of these ossified pegs through their flesh. And so, despite my misgivings about the pain, I agreed when they offered me the chance. Nothing drastic, a small fang through the lobe of my ear. It was, as I'm sure you'll agree, going to be a pretty dope look. It stung, but less than I feared, and as I used the mirror to dab the blood away and survey my latest addition, I heard the voice. Whispering, chanting, spiraling through my mind. I looked around me at the crowd, so welcoming to a traveler. Their eyes blinked sideways, the bones in their skin gleaming a venomous yellow, a burnished gold, like scales in the sand.
Sideways eyes. Like Men in Black?
Like the Men in Black.
Jeez.
Like snakes. Like how snakes blink.
Like snakes. Yeah.
snakes blink. These
Snakes.
people are turning into the snakes. They have
Snake
been
Yep,
people.
so they're
using the
harvesting
bones
they're
as
decorating their
piercings.
skin. Yeah.
And it's
Make 'em
corrupting and transforming them.
Ooh, yuck.
Okay, that's that's
That's really interesting thing.
I like
No, it's okay. It's kind of yuck.
I like thinking of the sort of like hunter-led society, you know, got
Yeah.
some like body modification vibes to it. And you know what? I actually kind of feel like this society might adopt becoming the monster after
Make 'em
you've
hunt
claimed
better.
enough kills, you know? Like that
Yeah.
that feels like maybe even a status symbol if you occasionally just snake out on people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, are you like a mindless monster?
I
or-
didn't specify. I thought I'd
or do
leave
you
that
just
for,
sort of
for group
blink
discussion.
sideways a couple times?
Well, one of them was
And
like
then a black
whispering,
Tracy.
right?
Yeah,
So one of them was
so,
like-
I sort of envisioned that they would hear the voice of the snake.
I
I
dig it.
just watched Escape from New York, and the main character's name is Snake Plissken. That's all. That's all.
Well, it's Snake Plissken and old Gil Deadbones
Yeah.
starring tonight.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you, Jack, for
Okay.
your meat and your potatoes, please, we hunger.
Okay.
Present them.
Gib.
Let's do it. Inside a dark room, a button clicks from the recesses of a deep armchair, its inhabitant shrouded in shadow. In front of the chair, a screen flickers to life, and a recording begins to play. Jazzy, upbeat music fills the room, and a wide, smiling man with slick-back hair turns to the camera. Has one of your family members recently passed away? Perhaps a beloved pet has crossed the Rainbow Bridge. Whatever your needs, Sunnyview Funeral Paradise is your one-stop shop for tastefully disposing of any remains which may currently be in your possession. Choose your own funeral plot, and you have our Sunnyview guarantee. Your loved one will be laid to rest within 24 hours. Burial not your vibe? Try out our brand new crematorium. You hand over the corpse and we'll hand you back a filled urn within half an hour. Or you get it free. Find us at the old abandoned laboratory at the top of Mount Cragspire today. Sunnyview Funeral Paradise. A bony hand, gilded in rune-etched gold, reaches from the shadows of the armchair, and with another click, the recording stops. A voice rasps from the inky black. Erit, I require more bones.
Okay. All right.
Alrighty.
So creepy old bone eater. Is he the same guy from the commercial?
No, different guy. Creepy old bone eater has hired an advertising agency.
Naturally.
His business. People are bringing their dead pets, their dead grandma, their
Whatever.
person that they killed
Yeah.
on the side of the road up to creepy old bony man and his
Yeah.
assistant at the top of Mount Cragspire and dropping them off, and he is defleshing them and doing
Using
something
whatever
with
he
the bones.
wants the bones
Is
for.
he paying them for the
Yeah,
bones, or are they paying him for bone disposal?
I think they're paying him because it's like an ad.
I feel
Yeah.
like
That bit probably is less important. But the more
Yeah.
important
Sure,
thing
yeah.
is that,
I feel like a
is
full
that
page-
he wants bones, and this is the way that he's chosen to.
I feel
receive
like he'd run a full page ad that's like, got too many bones and not enough cash? We'll buy your bones
it.
for
Buy your
cash.
bones.
Hmm.
If you can make the business be, you pay me to deal with your bones rather than I pay you.
True.
get
But then,
your bones.
yeah, you're going to lose customers because they got to drive all the way to Cragmore Mountain, and those roads are treacherous
Well,
and dangerous.
I think the thing that you'll find, Vinny, is that when your loved one dies,
Oh, yeah.
you generally don't want to just I guess I'll bring the trash out tomorrow. You kind of want to deal with it.
Yeah,
I'll tell
yeah.
you what, I gotta say, 30 minutes though is a very quick turnaround on a cremation.
It's almost like it's not the
Actually, what's
bones in
going
there.
on?
It's
It's just a
like
bag
it's
of sawdust.
Yeah.
bag of dirt.
The impish guy goes out the back and then chain smokes 4 cigarettes and ashes them. And
It's just
brings it back in.
he does the Bugs Bunny thing where he in a single draw. Beautiful, perfect. So yeah, I figured I wanted it to be like the place where bones are going, or like I figured your guys' stuff would have something more to do with like what the bones are or what's happening, and this could be like kind of more current eventy kind of stuff, right?
I like this as like this is something that could slide into Middy's one really well, with like people having bones and like a different way of using the bones in the society that isn't piercing your skin with them, and there being some malevolent force that like wants a bunch of bones.
Wants, like, the bones are around, right?
Yeah.
And he wants them.
No one else is using them.
No one else is. Well, some people are using them.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, he's willing to
none of the
wait.
other dead bodies are using them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of them, no one's using it at the moment, which is fair. And I imagine he would turn, like, this would be a very like conflict of interest between the group of people who are, you know, body modifying with bones and the bone eater who is like, what? But you're wasting them.
In my head, what he was doing with the bones is like he is a reanimated gilded skeleton, and the gilding of his skeleton is the thing that animated him, and he is going to gild other people's skeletons and animate them.
Yeah. Well, that somewhat
stuff.
ties in with what my story being like gilded bones containing magic and like doing
There's
something
a process to gild the bones, which does stuff.
So is it sort of like your village, Vinny, is like what this bone man has built over like a century of reanimating, of gilding bones?
Yeah.
And it's not just like people, but also like cats and dogs and guinea pigs. And
the general vibe from the village I was going for was like it's not a normal operating village, right? The people or the things that survive there are basically just sort of like stuck in this endless ritual to keep themselves perpetually going. So that could be what the Bone Eater is like vibing on. This could be his creation, you know? It could be resulting in this village. By creating enough of his undead minions, they're like doing something.
Or maybe he's the last survivor and he's trying to
rebuild. Maybe he's an immortal, right? From this village that has like ages ago got destroyed, and it's now sort of more modern day.
Yeah. He's just sitting up.
He's
sitting up in his tower, his abandoned laboratory on a hill. Watching
TV. Lab.
Hmm.
And he's trying to rebuild this like ancient sort of thing that he was in control of. And like he's a skeleton because like all his flesh is
and just his bones remain. That's kind of sick. I really want to tie in Middy's monster hunting society, which I think feels like if we've firmly positioned a TV in this reality, then I do like the idea of it being like modern punks with their skin piercings and like you know, denim wearing, skateboard riding, black leather dudes with like rows and rows of snake ribs piercing their face and stuff could be kind of sick.
But how does that fit with like him being the guy that's doing the process of gilding the bones?
No, it could be like there is a sudden resurgence or surge of like an alternate use for bones in society, and it's disrupting Bone Eater's plan.
Right.
Because like all of a sudden people want to hang on to their bones, and now he's in conflict.
Yeah. He wants to gild them.
Yeah.
But other people are like, oh man, we've figured out this magic where if I put a piercing in from my pet lion
or your pet dog, you know, you get a little bit of that like energy.
You turn into your dog? Like,
no, I think you just get a little bit of it.
You get like 1% dog.
You get like
what
1%.
Does that mean? Like you smell real good, or like
heightened smell?
I mean, it could be that. It could be like you just get like a little bit of what the feeling of being a dog was like.
Yeah, you know
like a memory sort of vibe.
Running endurance. pack
Well,
mentality.
like if you like really loved your dog, you're like, I want to know what it was like.
I do really love my dog. She's
Yeah, but-
hungry most of the time.
But
Yes.
imagine putting a little dog piercing in, and all of a sudden you
Look.
lose like your 5-color sight, and you go down to.
I
3
think
color
it's more
dogs.
interesting if we have a sort of a burgeoning society of animorphs.
But they're
So, like-
permanent, right? They're supposed to be like permanent body modifications.
Yeah, they could.
Animal bones.
Yeah, sure.
So you have to choose your animal carefully.
You choose your
But if you choose
animal.
a dog, but you might be hungry a lot.
Yeah, and if you really
Be
want
hungry
to,
a lot.
you could go
Because
like,
I feed my dog. I want to make that clear. It's just that she wants more. Always.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to be a very pleasant.
hey, maybe if
experience.
you could get 1% of how your dog felt, you would give her more food.
Probably would, and that would be bad because she's a
she'd
golden
get very
retriever.
unhealthy.
So, like,
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
bad for her joints.
I do like the idea of like, it's a permanent slight adjustment towards that animal, because then you could be like, you know what, I feel like I'm 3% snake,
Right.
I'm 5% hyena,
Yeah.
I'm 7% shark.
But what that is, you have to appreciate that what that is like so hard to imagine. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what is
Your
1% of a
your
shark?
animal
Like,
smashing-
Chimeras in
Yeah.
Full Metal Alchemist.
yeah, but even that's like a third of a thing, and then a
Yeah.
third of another thing. Like,
There's a lot of bones, but I mean, the Bone Eater's upset for a reason, right?
Mm.
yeah. So I think with the Bone Eater, that process has to corrupt your bones in such a way that he can't harvest them. So you have like sort of two competing, which I like. We haven't really done a lot of this, like two competing things within this civilization. You've got the Bone Eater, who is here in this country to harvest your bones for
To make his bread.
To make his
make
bread.
it- to make-
I think it was
To make something else
greed.
that's happening. Well,
Some-
whatever. Let's talk a little bit about what the Bone Eater is doing, right? He's
Yes.
assembling, or he's gilding bones to make more like minions. But like, what are they doing?
Well, this is where it comes into your thing, right, Vinny? He's gilding bones to remake his society of immortal people that are like engaged in this ritual sacrifice,
Yeah.
which also brings it with it a darkness, right?
The original idea was that they must continue doing the ritual to hold back the darkness. So maybe
Right.
he could be like, no one realizes this, but I'm actually stopping the apocalypse. Like,
Yeah, okay. So the Bone Eater is the good guy.
the Bone Eater. Well, look, it's better to just think that the Bone Eater thinks that he's the good guy.
Yeah.
And like whatever.
There's the-
The apocalypse for
Whatever.
his society might just mean that he can't take people's bones anymore.
No. Okay,
All
nice.
the bones are gone.
I do kind of like this Dracula position he's put himself in. Where he's
Yeah.
got his like Igor and stuff.
Yeah.
Around.
Yeah, for sure. And then we've got sort of street shark animorphs people who are
Yeah.
sort of changing their bones.
They live in a society where there are monsters aplenty. They love fighting and killing these monsters, and then they love piercing their body with their bones to gain some of their juice.
The Bone Eater is the bad guy, and he is in like an endless battle with these teenage animorph punk street sharks. In terms of like this is what's happening within this world.
Yeah.
Or
So
within this part of the world, it's the Bone Eater is taking people over and gilding their bones, and then like I don't know, he brings them back to life or something.
Yeah, well,
An
he
army or something.
He reanimates them, and then he sends them in to go and wipe out this sleepy little town, right? But all the animorph sassy squad of teenagers jump out, and they're like, "But not today, Bone Eater.
Right,
We're gonna-
Bone Eater.
We're gonna snap your bones, bro."
Powers of
Yeah.
a fish.
It's the 90s. Powers of 10% of a fish. Like,
Zero
you
gills.
just immediately die. Well, I think that gives us sort of a decent idea of what's going on here. Let's run on over to the spice rack then and add a little bit of pepper to our provincial pie. We're going to select a herb to act as an inciting event and a spice to act as a scenario. Inciting events will be sort of pivotal moments within this country's history, and then scenarios are just little bits of flavor on the side. Tonight's inciting event is the ruling council gets beamed up.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, are we introducing a party, or do they get beamed up? I assume this is the council of the town?
I think let's think of this more on a country scale, right?
Okay, right,
like this is a smallish country.
Yep.
But like this guy is running ads all over the country, and he's got like all these different funeral parlors all over the country, and he's like, right, it's spreading really fast. He's like taking over people's skeletons, and that gives him a control over the people because they've got to come back to him. And then there's this underground sort of punk anamorph movement of people with gills.
Yeah. So the ruling council then.
The ruling council would be of the country.
And when we say beamed up, we're saying like into the Bone Eater's yard,
Well,
right?
I think that needs to be explored.
Well,
right?
okay.
What does beamed up mean?
He Batman villains them, and he kidnaps them all through some, I don't know, mystical magic, and he's holding them all hostage at his castle, like meh, classic Skeletor.
I'm gonna bone you.
I'm gonna slowly gild these
You're
guys.
Gonna bone me, Bone Eater? What? Sorry,
Skeletor said he wants to bone
words. Yeah,
Bone Eater's name could be Gilded Bone.
It could be. It isn't though.
It'd be the head
spread.
hunters in the society, right? It'd be like the biggest and most badass.
Yeah, maybe that's a interesting way to take it. This society, like this, is a conflict that has been happening within this country for years and years and years, right? Way back when it was the Bone Eater and his bone cult against this like sort of tribal group of hunters who like hunted the animals and took the power of the animals through piercings. And they won that initial conflict, and so now we're in sort of more modern day, and that they still like sort of exist as a kind of like a lodge, right? Just like spreading sort of traditional ideas and that sort of thing. They figure out the power to, you know, do the piercings and get gills or whatever. But
among other helpful animal things like tails and
big shark head.
Yeah, big claws, big jaw. It's got to be more than 1%. I swear to God. If it's
no,
like
1% per piercing, man. You just got to get like a bunch of piercings.
A bunch of piercings, I suppose. And then the Bone Eater comes back, and he, in his UFO, picks up the council.
Yeah, in his UFO. Because he was always an alien.
He's always been an alien, and he's always had a UFO.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
yeah,
so
exactly.
in his ancient history, he fled in his UFO. He was sort of the master of that other place, and he just sort of did a little trip around the solar system, and then came back. And now he's just like, I'll just wait for them all to die out, and then came back. Little did he know that Punk never dies.
Punk never dies, baby.
And so he comes back in his UFO, which is just a saucer, I think.
Yep,
like,
definitely
classic.
the most iconic looking UFO you could imagine.
But made of bone.
No.
Okay.
No.
I don't want it to be aliens anymore. I've convinced myself it shouldn't be aliens.
All right. Well,
instead,
he's
has
magic.
some sort of bone magnet.
A bone magnet.
That one bit.
So okay,
and so he like holds it up at his laboratory. He points it at City Hall, the council.
Oh my God. This is fucking
why
level.
Why doesn't he magnet up everyone? Is he just a Skeletor villain that's like, I'll target the leaders and then society will fall to chaos?
So. The city will fall to chaos, and then everyone will hurt each other, and they'll bring their bones to me.
Yes. Yeah, he wants to incite chaos.
Okay.
So
a lot of broken bones in chaos.
Look, he either, I don't know, kidnaps them or magnets them. It doesn't really matter.
Bone magnets.
They
it's
have to be
canon now.
beamed up in some way.
I suppose it's a bone magnet. It is.
bone
I think we're all in
tractor
all agreement. In this country, it has a sort of 90s cartoon aesthetic, and so people can be bone magneted, and it's not the whole country that gets bone magneted. It's the president.
Yep. Yeah, and of course, part of the superpowers of the Animorph teens / squad or whatever is that they've got big heavy bones. They can't be like magneted up.
They're immune to the magnetization process and the boning process.
That's part
They
of the
can't
animal
be
magic.
boned by the
Bellator
bone.
has tried to bone
The
them
bone eater
several
cannot
times.
bone them. Yeah, despite his best efforts.
Okay, so that's what happens, right? He takes this ruling council and makes them a part of his thing.
Yep.
And suddenly the bone eater is back.
He
right?
bones them and sends them back, and
Sends
then they're
them
like
back.
they look exactly like they did before, but now sometimes their eyes flash red.
That's cool. And then they're like, we need to redirect all the ambulances going to the hospital.
Everyone
Bony.
go to Sweet View House. It's so refreshing to create within the mindset of 90s kids TV because it doesn't have to make sense.
Yeah, right? It's so good.
It should be encouraged, in fact, that it doesn't. Scenarios. Should we do a scenario?
Yes, please.
I'm excited to do the scenario. In
Okay.
This little monster.
The first one, an overdue tribute is paid.
So
we talked about the darkness, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Is this maybe where the darkness comes into play?
Yeah, maybe Bone Eater has been behind on his payments to the darkness, and it suddenly comes and takes a bunch all at once. Either that or the other way.
Maybe this is how the Bone Eater gets started? Like, how he comes back, right?
He pays off.
Maybe he is the darkness.
That's pretty self-referential. I think it could be something like he gets a bunch of bones.
Mm-hmm.
He beams up city council, right? He gets a bunch of bones
with his bone magnet.
He pays his debt to the darkness, and then that like unlocks his powers, and now he's like
okay.
Darkness has been like chewing at his ability to do anything until he like repays his debt.
He can all he's been able to do so far is sit in a big armchair and watch daytime TV
and hire an advertising company
and invent a bone magnet.
He did
build a bone magnet.
Yeah, but so the darkness has sort of repoed his powers.
Yeah. But he gets them back, and he can pay the debt.
Yep.
And that gives him the ability to
now he gets all these
again.
Yeah, all these cool magic, right?
Maybe now he can like go out in sunlight.
I thought his thing was that he replaces people's bones, or he gilds people's bones, and through the gilding process,
he can
gains control over them.
Yeah, but he has to stay in the dark.
So what's the power that he gets back? It could even just be like youthfulness, right? Maybe he just becomes like
that's cool.
He gets his skin back.
He gets his skin back again. Like he becomes a human being again.
Yep.
And maybe he hasn't been like maybe the gilding process is like he touches them, right? And their bones get gilded.
Nah. 100% the gilding process is done surgically.
That's so fucked. That's like, how would that work?
I don't know, because like when all the politicians come back to town, right? They're covering up all their weird surgery scars so no one can see.
What about their face?
Like they do something like into the veins. It's like Wolverine style.
Wolverine.
Yeah, or like they submerge them and it just like soaks in.
Okay, so
the
power can't be that.
And I think that the power should just be like the youthfulness, right? All he can do is like sit in his chair, and watch TV,
his soaps.
Yep, and Grandpa's watching his soap operas again, and then all of a sudden he becomes like strong and fit and active, and he like can lead his army again, and he can.
He comes back as the leader of the council, like he he bone magnets them, and then suddenly he's the new president. Or whatever.
Yeah, and he's just this like bald guy who just like all of the Animorphs immediately recognize him as Skeletor, but they can't convince everyone that he's actually like this super villain. Yeah, cool.
All right. Next scenario: an alliance is shattered.
Ooh.
It's a good one. Maybe this is how the debt is paid?
This shattering of the alliance should be like the trigger, right? Because he's this old decrepit thing. He can't do anything, but something gives him a huge boon that he uses to pay off his debt. So, like, what is it that suddenly provides him with lots of bones?
What's the bone magnet, right?
No, the bone magnet... The bone
magnet, I think, comes after. I think he gets his powers back, and that gives him the ability to create the bone magnet.
Yeah,
but that doesn't make sense with how we've talked about this tribute thing going on.
So the tribute, I think that this is a crucial thing that Jack's got, and I think that it's like something happens that gives him a bunch of bones to pay off his debt, so that now he can resume control of society.
Order of operations, right?
Yeah.
Way, way long ago, there was an old tribe of hunters who were, pitched in a perpetual battle against the Bone Eater and his cult of bone people.
Gold bone people.
Gold bone people. Boners. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The hunters defeat the boners,
and
then we skip forward to modern day. Something happens where an alliance is shattered. And that leads to an overdue tribute being paid, which gives the Bone Eater his powers back, which allows him to form a bone magnet to steal city council and
beam them up and replace them
and gild their bones.
Yes.
So that he has control over them.
It feel like it needs to be something happening in society, this alliance that gets broken up. And the only sort of forces we have in the normal society part of this world at the moment are the plucky band of teen Animorphs and society at large.
Maybe they made an alliance with the darkness.
Oh, the hunters made an alliance with the darkness.
Okay.
And they've finally we're done. We're through. We're not paying your toll anymore. And then it's like, all right, well, I'll go to Skeletor.
What if the hunters make an alliance with the darkness and they say, we'll keep paying your bone toll with our cool magic bones? And the darkness says yes. And sort of Skeletor becomes like mist, vapor, whatever.
Yeah.
And then over time, as society changes and that sort of thing, the hunters as a thing dies out, kind of like the magic is forgotten, society modernizes, and no one is paying the toll anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Which brings the Bone Eater back, but as just a bag of bones.
The Igor character becomes the on the board of directors at the local museum, and overnight all of the bones disappear.
And as that's happening, a bunch of plucky kids discover the old rituals for becoming a hunter. In this old
there's
do the
one...
piercings and become a new breed of hunter.
And the Bone Eater
is released, his dark energy is released, and he becomes a bag of bones watching TV. And then Igor steals the dinosaur bones. He gets his body back, and then he bone magnets city council. And we start.
We go from there.
It's pretty simple.
So in fact, everything flows so naturally. And it sucks, though, because these poor plucky punks won't be able to get dinosaur powers because all the dinosaur bones got stolen.
No!
So true, right? So true. I just wanted to have T-Rex powers. Maybe they're there. Maybe they're at the museum and the book falls out of a T-Rex head or something.
It's like the T-Rex they're are playing around on the bones, and a map falls out and it takes them to the lodge.
With
all the books and the knowledge and the
cool.
Nice.
This
old creaky Viking lodge.
And what do we call this place?
Oh man.
What do we call this place?
What would a 90s TV show it's the name of the whole country, right?
Yeah, but I don't care.
The Bone Zone.
Bone Zone. Excuse me, sir? This is a passport from the Bone Zone? No, I can't let you into the country.
I'm trying to think about the tribe of kids and like the old hunter tribe would be called like Bone Hunters or something.
Yeah.
So that might be the name of the TV show, but wouldn't be the name of the town.
Bone Hunters.
Bone Hunters. You know, something that's super marketable. Something that like 8-year-old kids could say. Well,
It's got to be something evocative. Bone Spur?
Bone Spurs.
welcome to the quaint little mountain village of Bone Spur, where nothing terrible happens, especially with our bones. On recent news, the museum's bones have gone missing lately.
Sounds perfect.
Pretty good.
Sounds like a fun night out.
Caboni.
Capone?
Fossil
Fossil rock.
Fossilia.
Fossil rock.
Fossilson. I think it's something to do with fossils, right? Like maybe that's the museum has lots of fossils because it's like a big bony area.
Animal bones.
The
Lots of
tar
animal
pit.
bones. The tar pit. I think maybe we mute Mitch for a little bit, and you and me figure this out.
You guys can just say Bone Spire together a lot in different ways. I'm thinking about real ideas here.
I'm talking about Fossilton. I'm talking about
I think
Bone City.
I think we're focusing on too hard on like making the name super representative of what's going on. But I think that making the name more like
It doesn't have to be representative. It has to be evocative of the vibe, right? So it doesn't have to do with bones, but it has to be like something like it has to have a word that makes you think about bones in it.
Yeah. The spine.
calcitrite.
Calcitonia.
Ossuary.
Bone zone. Bone
Osteoton?
zone. Bone zone.
Austin.
South Austin.
Osteopia.
No.
What are other names for graveyards?
Reliquary.
Reliquary.
Mortuary.
Reliquary is kind of interesting. Tombstone.
Tree.
Tombstone
Cat of bones. Or tombstone.
is kind of
Tombstone.
good, right?
Tombstone's
kinda
very
cool.
90s. Tombstone.
is like
Dope.
yeah.
Sick.
Okay, Tombstone.
Nice. Good get, man.
Well, Tombstone is where our country is. That's the name of it. Vinny, do you want to give us a little recap?
Yeah. Let's go. In times past, Tombstone used to be home of like a small village of gold-boned people who were the bony cult of Bone Eater.
We've really stuck
nasty-
with Bone Eaters.
I
the
know,
name.
a nasty villain who was fighting against these heroic monster hunters who would augment themselves with body modification from animal bones, becoming some anamorphy
1% of a dog.
Yeah, 1% of a dog.
Just
or
the
whatever.
ears.
Just the
Just
ears
the
of a dog.
floppy ears.
Yeah. So Bone Eater and his gang were unfortunately, knocked back, and society continued for.
Unfortunately,
Yep,
they're an evil
definitely
cult.
unfortunately. I'm voting for the Bonies.
You're all Bone Eater.
I'm Team Boner. So then the darkness that fueled Bone Eater's power became abated by the hunters, right? They began offering tribute to appease the darkness so that Bone Eater would stay away. Time passes and slowly, it becomes the 90s. Their group no longer exists.
Slowly. I love the idea that it like a timer ticks over from like 1400 or like ancient times to now it's the 90s.
Yeah, that's exactly how the television show intro would go. And, the last member of their group perishes and they can no longer afford to pay the toll to the darkness anymore. Meanwhile, Skeletor, a withered husk who can only watch daytime TV in his mountain home, sends his Igor out to steal a bunch of bones. Which so he pays a long overdue debt to the darkness, filling him full of new darkness beef energy, and he becomes like a Lex Luthor type
Beef
dude.
energy.
Yep. he bone magnets up
Gotta
city
remember the
council.
bone. Yeah.
I'm gonna say it. He surgically gilds their bones
Let's do
and
that.
sends them back into society,
And that allows him to control
that
the city council, right?
that allows him to control them. Meanwhile, a group of plucky, sassy teenagers are hanging out and
Of all ages.
Of all ages.
Yeah.
Are hanging
They're
out.
teens at heart.
They're teens at heart, but there is like a 40-year-old.
Yeah, I want to like a really like old school punk, is there as well.
Of course,
I like that.
Punk mother.
Yeah.
And they learn about the powers of the monster hunters of old and begin augmenting themselves with various animals. Yeah, and then they realize what Bone Eater Skeletor is up to, and they begin their adventures of like trying to get him back out of society, get the darkness powers back out of him, and restore things to the way that they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Enter you.
A big thank you to Helizna for our opening theme.
Thanks.
And an equally big thank you to Avery Adler, who created the Quiet Year, which we use as the basis for the world-building game we play each and every week.
Thank you. And
Thanks.
you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the meal, please don't forget to tip your servers and leave a rating in the comment section of your favorite podcasting app.
My name is Dishpot, and tonight I play the role of Jack.
Vinny, the saucy spicer.
And I am Mitch, the Monster Chef. Thank you so much for listening. Are we happy, boys?
Yes, chef.
Yes.
Call me Chef.
Dur-dur-dur-dur.
Call me Chef. Yeah, this is a bit.
It's cut to my great joke about you editing my voice, and then cut this.
Yeah,
This.
cut all of this.
This is bad, or you could leave it all in.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
Oh man.
That's right. Welcome to show business, Vinny. We got a lot to teach you.